U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed that a South Korean-operated cargo ship was attacked by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz earlier this week, after deciding to navigate the waterway alone, adding that ships guarded by the United States remain safe. Iran says it has imposed a new system to regulate ship transits through the Strait of Hormuz, warning only routes authorized by Tehran are safe, and that any deviation could trigger a decisive response. Korea's benchmark stock index topped a key milestone of 7,000 points for the first time, boosted by a rally in chip makers. The breakthrough comes just over 2 months after the KOSPI first crossed the 6,000 level. U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed that a South Korean-operated cargo ship was attacked by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz earlier this week, after deciding to navigate the waterway alone. The United States also announced the conclusion of its offensive campaign against Iran, but that the next phase, Project Freedom, would be paused, apparently due to ongoing negotiations. Our Isijin has the details.
U.S. President Donald Trump says a South Korean-operated cargo ship that reported an explosion in the Strait of Hormuz was attacked by Iran. Speaking at the White House on Tuesday, Trump said the vessel and other ships had been shot at by Iran after deciding to cross the critical waterway alone, adding that ships guarded by the U.S. remained safe. On the same day, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio officially announced that Operation Epic Fury, the offensive phase of the U.S. campaign that began in late February, is over.
Yeah, look, the Operation Epic Fury is concluded. Okay, we're now on to this Project of Freedom. Now, what's really important for you to report and for everyone to understand is this is not an offensive operation. This is a defensive operation.
However, later on Tuesday, Trump took to social media to say Project Freedom, which includes the U.S. military guiding ships through the Strait of Hormuz, would be paused for a short period. Citing requests from countries like Pakistan and great progress toward a final agreement with Iran, he said the movement of ships is being halted to see if a deal can be finalized and that the blockade of Iranian ports remains in full effect. The Pentagon also emphasized its expectation for U.S. allies to join the effort in the strait's maritime safety.
We hope South Korea would step up, just like we hope Japan would step up, just like we hope Australia would step up. But the president was clear in his truth message that, hey, this is your ship. You should take part in helping to defend it.
According to experts, Trump's decision to put the brakes on a major defense project could signal that behind-the-scenes negotiations regarding an end to the war and denuclearization may be making significant progress. 이수진, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Iran has imposed new controls on ship transits through the Strait of Hormuz, warning vessels to follow routes authorized by Tehran or face a decisive response. The move comes as tensions escalate with the United States and the UAE trade accusations with Iran over reported missile and drone activity. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Iran has introduced a new system to regulate ship movements through the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, escalating tensions with the United States over control of the key waterway. According to Press TV on Tuesday, vessels seeking to transit the strait must now follow a framework set by Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority. Ships receive instructions via email and are required to comply before being granted a transit permit. The move comes as Iran tightens its grip on maritime traffic through the strait, a critical global energy corridor through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Navy, has warned that only routes authorized by Tehran are considered safe, adding that any deviation could trigger what it called a decisive response. In a statement carried by Iran's Fars news agency on Tuesday, the IRGC Navy said vessels must use corridors previously designated by Iran, and that unauthorized routes should be deemed unsafe. Meanwhile, regional tensions have intensified. The United Arab Emirates said its air defense systems intercepted multiple aerial threats originating from Iran. In a statement posted on X, the UAE Ministry of Defense said explosions heard across parts of the country were the result of intercepting ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. However, Iran has denied carrying out any such attacks. State broadcaster Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting cited a military spokesman as saying no missile or drone operations had been launched against the UAE and dismissed the claims as baseless. The spokesman warned that any attack on Iran originating from UAE territory would be met with a decisive and forceful retaliation. He also accused the UAE of allowing U.S. and Israeli forces to operate from its soil, urging Emirati authorities not to become a base for what he described as hostile powers. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
As speculation grows over a potential resumption of diplomacy between the United States and North Korean leaders, one leading U.S. scholar says talks to tackle Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions require a new and realistic approach. Our Oh Soo-young has the details.
Talks with North Korea should start with risk reduction rather than immediate denuclearization, cooling tensions to avoid a nuclear war. That's according to Victor Cha, Korea chair at the Center for Strategic and International Studies and former deputy head of the US delegation to the six-party talks. In a recent Foreign Affairs article, Cha makes a case for seeking cold peace with North Korea.
The idea behind the cold peace is that we're much better off avoiding the chances of a hot nuclear war with North Korea and trying to open a cold peace. And the cold peace doesn't completely negate the goal of denuclearization, but acknowledges that it's not something that's going to happen anytime soon when North Korea has 50 nuclear weapons and, is fast on their way to building many, many more.
After decades of policy centered on putting denuclearization first, Cha says the priority should instead be lowering the risk of nuclear escalation.
Arms control would be the idea that we're not going to get denuclearization with North Korea anytime soon, but we could try to negotiate a reduction in the number of missiles that they are deploying, in particular long-range ballistic missiles, an end to testing of whether it's nuclear weapons or ballistic missiles, a ban on production of additional weapons-grade fissile material, and a non-proliferation pledge that North Korea would not proliferate to other countries.
But how to get North Korea on board is the question, even if US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un resume their talks, which have stalled since 2019. Sanctions pressure has weakened, with China and Russia no longer fully enforcing restrictions, while the war in Ukraine has led to deeper military cooperation with Moscow.
As part of a cold peace strategy, the United States would have to think of ways to try to sever that link, because that tie between Russia and North Korea is most likely giving North Korea the capabilities to pose an even greater threat to the U.S. homeland with more capable intercontinental ballistic missiles, as well as potentially nuclear submarines.
Cha says that seeking cold peace with North Korea would not mean weaker deterrence. Seoul, Washington and Tokyo would still expand their missile defense system and deepen defense industrial cooperation, while maintaining clear consequences if North Korea uses nuclear weapons. With growing speculation over Trump's North Korea diplomacy, a White House official said on Monday that there is no North Korea-US summit currently scheduled during the president's Asia trip this month. But Washington remains open to dialogue without any preconditions. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
On the economic front, Korea's benchmark KOSPI broke through the 7,000 mark for the first time ever this morning. The index opened more than 2% higher at 7,093, and at 1 point surged into the 7,300 range shortly after the opening bell. The breakthrough came just over 2 months after the KOSPI first crossed the 6,000 level in late February. Strong buying momentum also triggered a buy-side sidecar soon after the open, halting buy orders for 5 minutes. Market heavyweights Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix were among the main drivers behind the gains. Korea's consumer prices rose 2.6% on-year in April, driven by soaring fuel costs. The Ministry of Data and Statistics said on Wednesday that the consumer price index for April rose 2.6% from a year earlier. On a monthly basis, prices increased 0.5%, while the annual inflation rate saw its sharpest increase in 21 months. Petroleum prices led the overall rise in inflation, surging 21.9% and more than doubling the pace of increase from the previous month. Meanwhile, agricultural, livestock, and fisheries prices fell 0.5%, while service prices climbed 2.4%. Addressing challenges faced by Korean businesses amid the Middle East conflict, an event was held in Chungnam province to help smaller firms break into global markets. Our Kim So-young tells us more.
Korean companies and overseas buyers meet face-to-face for in-depth talks. From red ginseng to seaweed, local firms highlight the quality and value of Korean products. This event, Chungnam Global Business Matching, aims to help smaller businesses break into global markets. A total of 250 local companies took part in one-on-one meetings, showcasing a wide range of products. For businesses hit by rising costs and global uncertainty, the event offered a cost-effective way to connect with new buyers.
With rising oil prices and a sluggish local economy, things have been very tough for us. But having overseas buyers brought here, it's been a huge help.
Organizers analyzed buyer demand, hired professional interpreters, and expert consultant to help facilitate deals. On the first day alone, export agreements worth around $34 million were signed. Follow-up support will continue even after the event to help these consultations into finalized contracts.
The first meeting is crucial. It's where trust begins. Once that foundation is built, it can lead to continued export opportunities.
Chungnam province plans to hold another event later this year to further support local exporters. Kim So-young, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has called for a partial constitutional revision a day ahead of parliamentary voting on a constitutional amendment. At a cabinet meeting this morning, he noted that the nation has gone through many changes, but its constitution has remained the same since 1987. He added that full-scale revision is not easy given differing political interests, but partial and gradual revision is possible on areas deemed less contentious. The revision put forward intends to tighten rules on declaring martial law and include the spirit of the May 18 democratization movement in the Constitution. South Korea's ruling Democratic Party is set to select its new floor leader on Wednesday in what is expected to be a formality, with just a single candidate, former floor leader Han Byung-do. Lawmakers will vote at a general meeting this afternoon, with Han running unopposed in a ballot requiring majority approval. The result combines lawmakers' votes with party member ballots from earlier this week, and if confirmed, Han will become the first in party history to serve consecutive terms in the role. His one-year term would run through May next year, with immediate priorities including shaping the National Assembly's leadership and preparing for upcoming local elections. Korean horror series If Wishes Could Kill has topped the Netflix non-English TV show chart in its second week after release. According to Netflix on Wednesday, the series recorded 7.5 million views over the past week. It also ranked in the top 10 in 64 countries, including Japan, Egypt, and Brazil. If Wishes Could Kill depicts high school students struggling to escape a deadly curse tied to a phone application that grants wishes at the cost of one's lives. And in an age dominated by screens, where smartphones are a constant presence in young lives, a different scene is unfolding at local libraries. Our Chung Eri met with children rediscovering the joy of reading.
Growing up with a tablet in their hands, children today may be more familiar with a screen than paper. But as bite-sized content dominates their attention, experts emphasize that physical books are more important than ever. Here at the National Library for Children and Young Adults, the soft sound of turning pages fills the cozy atmosphere. These children are learning that true literacy, the ability to understand context and think critically, begins with the turn of a page.
All books have different illustrations, and that's really interesting to see. I like mystery and detective books because it feels like a real event that happened.
Unlike digital screens that provide instant visuals, physical books require children to build the world themselves. Connecting with the characters with their imagination, this mental immersion also fosters deeper empathy as they learn to walk in a character's shoes one page at a time.
I like the cream puff cookie character. She's very gentle and always helps others.
Specialized libraries like this one in Songpa-gu district act as literacy playgrounds. The easygoing atmosphere makes books accessible and fun. Children can simply pick a book they like and start reading wherever. Today's children are digital natives, but in a world of instant swipes, young readers are still finding joy in the simple act of turning a page. The focus is on making reading a habit. This type of focused reading acts as a workout for the brain, helping kids improve their attention span in a world full of digital distractions.
I like books that come out as series. You can read them anytime, even during short breaks. And books are fun even when you read them again, but TV shows aren't as fun the second time.
Even complex history becomes an exciting discovery when it's found at one's own pace. For Ujin, his library hours are spent exploring the legends of the past.
I am reading a book about Admiral Yi Sun-shin.
As Korea celebrates Children's Day, these young readers remind us that even in a world where content is becoming shorter and louder, the magic of books continues to endure. 정혜림, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. The World Health Organization now suspects the deadly Hantavirus spreading aboard a luxury cruise ship in the Atlantic may have passed from person to person. Such transmission is a rare development for a disease that normally spreads only through infected rodents. 7 cases in total have been confirmed or suspected. Of the 7, 3 people have died, a Dutch couple and a German national. Also, a British passenger evacuated from the vessel is in intensive care in South Africa, and 2 crew members require urgent medical attention. The Dutch-flagged ship MV Hondius is currently moored off Cape Verde, which has refused to allow the remaining 150 passengers ashore. 2 medical evacuation planes are now reportedly en route. Meanwhile, the Spanish Health Ministry confirmed on Tuesday it will receive the ship in the Canary Islands, quote, in accordance with international law and humanitarian principles. In Ukraine, Russian strikes killed at least 27 people across the country's east on Tuesday, hours before a Ukrainian ceasefire proposal was set to take effect at midnight. The worst attack killed 12 in the city of Zaporizhia. Ukraine had called for an open-ended halt to fighting starting at midnight, urging Russia to follow. Russia instead announced only a brief pause for May 8th and 9th to coincide with its World War II victory commemorations in Moscow. President Vladimir Zelensky rejected Moscow's proposal, saying that Russia just wanted a pause for its military parade while still pounding Ukraine with missiles and drones. In Colombia, a gas explosion at a coal mine on Monday killed 9 workers and injured 6. The explosion came just weeks after safety inspectors had flagged a dangerous buildup of gases, including methane, at the same site. The blast struck at least 600 meters underground at a legally operated mine in the Sutatosa municipality, 72 kilometers north of Bogota. The National Mining Agency said it had recommended safety improvements during an April inspection, but the warnings had been ignored. In the U.S., stars turned up barely recognizable at Monday's Met Gala in New York. Beyoncé made her first Met Gala appearance in 10 years as one of its co-chairs. Bad Bunny disguised himself as an elderly man, Heidi Klum turned up as the Statue of Liberty, and Madonna arrived with a ship on her head. Outside the gala, protesters held signs spelling out "Tax the Rich," targeting Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who sponsored the event for the first time. Bezos donated a reported $10 million to the event, which led to calls for a boycott over wealth inequality and workers' rights. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
If you've been outside this morning, you've certainly noticed the temperature shift. We're talking a 15 degrees Celsius gap between morning and afternoon, but there will be a drop in readings tomorrow with spotty rain in the forecast for central parts of Korea. For today, the sky will remain mostly clear, which means you'll be basking in some very intense UV rays. Sunscreen is definitely recommended if you're spending time outdoors. The UV index will reach very high levels throughout the afternoon nationwide with high ozone concentrations. And this afternoon, Seoul will get up to 24 degrees Celsius. Daejeon and Gwangju will make it to 25 degrees. Air quality will be clean nationwide throughout the day. Tomorrow brings a change in the pattern. Spotty rain in central areas will bring relief from today's warmth. After the rain clears, we'll see temperatures begin climbing again. Then this weekend looks like it's going to be beautiful. Please stay safe and hydrated out there.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.